happy to speak with you again. Where were we?
My goodness, we covered so much ground. Very, very pleased.
Good, Jim.
Yeah. So how have you been?
I'm happy to help you in any way because I see you as my favorite kind of person. A person who invents a job for themselves and then does it. Works for himself. You know what I mean? You keep your nut low by getting your own office in your mother's house, right? So there's no pressure for you to produce more than you feel comfortable doing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of advantages to your business plan, if I may call it that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I talk about this with my therapist about how to make it grow. I've created my own network where I host other shows from friends who do their own podcasts and do them very, very well. So that turned out to be a very fulfilling endeavor. Just instead of making it all about me and my show, I was able to branch it out and have other voices join me, essentially. So
we see that's part of the invisible plan.
Yeah.
Which is to help others.
Exactly.
Which, if you could monetize that on a spiritual level, it would be hugely fulfilling and abundant, right? Every hour you spend helping somebody else brings in, let's say, this is a metaphor, like $3 an hour, right? Let's say, way below minimum wage. But I'm sure there's a math to it somewhere that if you, or you could even say, it's my job to stay in a good mood. And I'm earning a metaphorical $3 an hour for staying in a good mood and thinking of good things rather than bad things. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's
like I don't want to spend any more time thinking about Trump.
Right.
And I don't know where you stand on the issue, but thank God she won the debate because I had a sick feeling in my stomach.
Me too.
And who wants that? Who wants to walk around with that?
Watching it was nauseating and headache-inducing. I was just like, ugh. I don't feel good whenever he opens his mouth, and some of the things he said were repugnant, and I just want him to disappear.
But how much time have you spent thinking about him in the last month?
Well, mostly when I turn on the news, so I don't watch the news every day, but maybe 3 times a week for a half hour to an hour, I would say that I think about where this country is headed. And including the famous line that opened your movie. Do you ever get the feeling that everything in America is completely fucked up? And I sometimes I feel that way. I try to reframe it in a positive light somehow, and I just want to channel any sort of fear or negative energy into a creative output, which is what the podcast does and what music has always done, and watching movies. So if I can keep doing those 3 things for the rest of my life, even if I die broke, I will die happy. Good.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
That's exactly the right attitude. And, it looks like my wife brought all the dogs in to where I'm sitting. So now we have... Hang on, give me 1 second. Okay, one of the dogs is too small to get up on the bed. Sorry.
We're starting the dog cast.
Oh, yeah. They're all here.
Oh, good.
I have 3 dogs at the moment. And,
wow, so you literally have 3 dog nights, then.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and now I told my wife to let the 3rd one in. Oh, he's here.
Oh, good.
Then who else is scratching? That must have been my wife scratching at the door. Only kidding. Anyway, we're all calm and ready to settle in on any topic that you choose.
Wow. Yeah. It's it's just great to talk to you in general. That's the thing is, having any sort of interpersonal connection really adds value to not just, the show, but really in life for me. And so, just having our last talk was really, really invigorating and inspiring, and it makes me think about the future too, in a positive light, and where I can go and how things can persist from here. But I know that you said that you were in a.
So let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because it'll fly from my brain if I don't ask you. On the plane, in the documentary section of Air Canada movies, there was a piece on a book written by Truffaut about Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And it says, and the book is Truffaut/Hitchcock.
Right.
And I'm not sure, but allegedly there's a movie of it. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, it's a documentary that came out this year sometime. I haven't seen it yet because I don't think it's come out on DVD or anything. But I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, and people that I know, like Bogdanovich, say it's essential to read. And here's what I think happened. Long before Hitchcock was famous, and Truffaut was famous, Truffaut reached out to Hitchcock, and Hitchcock flew to Paris, and for 8 days, Truffaut and his buddies from Cahiers de Cinema interviewed him because they thought of him as a god, and the book was published, and then a bunch of American New Wave directors like Wes Anderson read it and hugely benefited from it. And I missed it, of course, and I regret that, but at the same time, it's not too late to read it. But I want to know where I could get it. I could probably get it at a bookstore, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to oppress you with my... But you're a movie person. You never saw the movie or heard of it.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I'll be seeking it out and find out when it comes out.
It might have... The movie might have been directed by somebody as huge as... I don't know. Never mind. Okay, so you're planting that seed in the fertile soil of your brain, and you're going to grow it there for me. Are you good?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, back to what you were saying.
Well, it's funny, too, because you mentioned that documentary. Recently, I saw a documentary called De Palma.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great, and it is essentially De Palma going through his entire filmography and talking to a camera. I mean, he's being interviewed by two directors, but he's essentially just telling stories into the camera about each of his films.
That must be wonderful. I wish there was one on Bogdanovich, because he's a great storyteller.
There should be. I mean, after... that's the thing, too, is like after seeing the De Palma episode, I was like, well, we should get Scorsese. We should get Bogdanovich. We should get all the big names to just, go through each of their films, talk about experiences. It's some people can argue that maybe it's not the most visually stimulating thing, but you edit it right. You cut to scenes from their films when they're talking about them. You make it interesting, nonetheless.
And you're doing that right now, audio.
Well, yeah, I feel very comfortable with audio. I've been, I think I've been recording for maybe 15 years now to some degree, whether if it's just producing music in my basement or this. It sort of came to this just because I love listening to people talk. I'm an active listener. So I love people telling stories. There's a podcast called The Tobolowsky Files, which is just character actor Stephen Tobolowsky telling these incredible stories from his life. And he's been in 200 movies or something like that. He's one heck of a storyteller. And in fact, after Harold Ramis passed away, he was one of my first big interviews. I got to interview him to talk about what it was like working with Harold Ramis on Groundhog Day. So that was the lightning bolt moment of me deciding I want to have more experiences like this, but I just want to connect to people that, I think would be great storytellers, or people that I've long admired, or just have a reason to talk. And rewatching Pump Up the Volume and talking it over with podcasters and various friends, and they know how much that movie has impacted me. It was like, it's got to be relatively easy to try and track Allan down and tell him my story and let him know that his work of art had a significant impact on my life. So I love that, and I certainly love the idea of us continuing this and, maybe having like a little audio memoir of some kind.
Sure, that's all possible, especially now that I'm retired and I'm not, stressed and running from one thing late to another. You know what I mean? Like last week in Montreal, I have 2 relatives that need care.
Right. I know.
But on the other hand, my mother, as you saw, is pretty good for her age. On the other hand, she's losing her mind as well as her eyesight. She's lost her eyesight.
Oh.
And now she's like, sometimes wonders where she is and what's going on and what's the next plan. The next plan is lunch, Mommy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's also asked me that when the time comes when it's no longer fun, if she loses her hearing, she wants to do a Jackie Kennedy. You know what that is?
I don't know if I do.
It's the same thing as an Ernest Hemingway. Do you know what that is?
I probably should.
It's where you choose the time and date of your own departure.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Okay. Whew. Sure.
It's her right to do that. It's legal in Quebec.
I agree. I agree with that, actually.
Yeah. She'll need my help, though. Anyway, on to a more positive thing.
Sure.
So I just sent... I should have sent it to you, but I sent it to my wife. I'm looking in my computer now called Sent. And a saying that I got off the internet this morning while waiting for 10 o'clock. Quote, find something to feel good about and get out of the way, and allow the cells to receive what they've been asking for. That is the key to healing. Okay, wow. I'm going to send that. I'm going to forward that to you.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's in your lexicon.
Because I feel like I've been healing for quite a while in terms of 2 very traumatic experiences that have made me who I am. I've survived them, I've overcome them, but they're still there to some degree. Like losing my father and having a near-death experience of my own, where, it's incredible to think about what life means and the fact that those experiences will stay with you no matter what. Like I will hear a song on the radio, automatically makes me think of my dad. But I also don't cry.
Give me an example.
I don't cry because I have this vision of him singing along to Tempted by Squeeze in the car.
Yeah.
And just, hitting the steering wheel with the beat of the song and just looking really joyful. So if that song comes on while I'm grocery shopping or something, it's just instant, thoughts of my father. So
wow.
Yeah, it's like a trigger, but a good trigger, because I no longer cry obviously I'll always miss him, but I don't feel melancholy. I'm grateful for the fact that we've had those memories and we had such a great relationship, because a lot of people don't have great relationships with their parents. So I tend to reframe it as instead of, oh, he's gone, I'm never going to see him again, I wish I could share this amazing thing with him. And I sort of go, I'm so glad that at least I have those memories to look back on.
Yeah.
So I always feel like whatever I do is a part of him and his enthusiasm for life, but also just I'm always going to be healing. It's like a process. It's like ever changing. It doesn't really go away, like just the grieving process. But it's not always overwhelming to the point where you're lying in bed and, depressed.
Uh-huh. So. Did you have a depression?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, even when, I saw Pump Up the Volume and had no idea what the term depression was, I just felt like, I'm just kind of a low-key, sad kid and, not the most social guy in the world, not really recognizing what I was experiencing as symptoms of something, at the time. And then, you see characters portrayed on screen that reflect your personality to some extent, and immediately you go, well, okay, I'm not that weird or crazy. A lot of people my age feel this way. So that's, why I attribute so much of my personal healing to that movie at the time, because it was just like, oh, well, maybe I can find other people out there who are emotionally vulnerable, don't mind talking about it. And I did. I was mostly friends with girls throughout high school because they were always emotionally open and vulnerable and kind of just willing to talk about deeper things. Whereas guys just like were watching sports and wanting to get laid and talking about boobs. Whereas I was like, well, those things are all fun and good, but I have this on my mind. I want to talk about spiritual things or philosophical things or psychological things. I guess I was just a deep thinker even way back then and kind of a sensitive guy. So that's helped. That's helped.
And when I was growing up in a small town, I want to talk about Artie things.
Yeah.
And there was nobody around to talk about that. There was one amazing guy who later I would have known was gay, but at that time he was just exotic to me, and I was very attracted to him. And he knew things that I didn't know. He would say things like, well, if you die, what do you want played? What music do you want played at your funeral? And I'm like, what are you even talking about? He says, I have my own list already. And
wow.
This guy's like 13, and he has songs that I've never heard of to be played at his funeral.
Wow.
Fantastic kid, eh? And
yeah.
My dad asked me just asked me about my friendship with him, and basically implied that I shouldn't hang around with him because everyone knew what I didn't know, that this guy was a flamer. And it wouldn't be helpful to my career as an upstanding young athletic person in this town to hang out with this guy. He carried his books in front of him with both arms like a girl, things like that. Anyway,
sure.
Cut to he committed suicide.
Oh. Wow.
Amazing, eh?
Yeah, it's tragic, though.
But so you live in a small town, and then finally you get to university. I went to McGill, and I met all kinds of people exactly like me.
Yeah.
In fact, on activities night, I went to this amazing club called Hillel, where they had film society, and they had all kinds of amazing. It seemed like the right club for me to join at McGill, right?
Right.
On the orientation. Then it turned out later, to my embarrassment, it's the Jewish Club. And my name, Allan Moyle, it's a Jewish name. It's the guy who does the ritual circumcision. So they figured, oh, here's an upstanding young Jewish guy. Meanwhile, I'm the Irish version, from the Firth of Moyle in Northern Ireland. But anyway, I joined and I went to their film society nights. It's free, all free, of course, in those days. Anyway, what did you want to talk about? I forgot.
Well, we can certainly start there, too, because it's interesting to learn about your beginnings, your humble beginnings, and just, I know you mentioned the Nicholas Roeg movie performance as having a huge impact on you. Were there other filmmakers or films around
Yeah, I have a list
years?
of movies. My top 10 is not the greatest movies that ever existed.
But your personal favorites.
The movies that impacted me most at that time.
Oh, okay.
For example, a movie that's entirely a Leonard Cohen soundtrack. Damn.
Is it McCabe and Mrs. Miller?
Yeah, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, yeah.
Oh, man.
That blew my mind.
Robert Altman is a genius. I love his movies. The more I see, the more I love. I'm a huge fan of Three Women. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's an eerie, dreamy, weird. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard movie to describe to people.
Well, depends on the first one you see. The first one I saw was Nashville.
Yeah.
With all the different people talking at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That blew my mind. That's on my top 10. Also, the first movie, Faces by Cassavetes.
Oh, yeah.
That blew my mind. And then you go back later and you think, oh, it's not that amazing. And he got 3 actor friends of his together and just improvised a bunch of cool dialogue, right? But at the time, or how about Chelsea Girls by Warhol? I used to stay there when I went to New York, just out of devotion to that hotel.
Sure.
Have you seen Chelsea Girls?
I haven't actually. No, I'll look that one up.
He put the camera on a tripod in the corner of a hotel room in the Chelsea Hotel, and then had his artistic friends come by and visit and argue and bicker. Of course, they all knew the camera's there, so they're all on their most flamboyant, and then edited it apparently allegedly with scissors, and but it's so raw and so amazing, and it's hugely inspirational about what can be done,
Oh yeah.
And my first movies, for example, let's see. I made a docudrama. Can't think of the name of it right now. You'd think I'd be able to remember. The Rubber Gun Show.
Oh, right.
It's basically just my friends. And anyway, I'll think of that list and send it to you someday if you're interested.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very interested. I was just looking up Chelsea Girls. I see it's 3 hours and 30 minutes long. And Nico is in it, who I adore.
Yeah.
Love
Taylor Mead, Candy Darling, a lot of Warhol people were in it.
Right.
And then they were just eccentric. And then I finally got to New York. Oh, no, I saw it in New York. And then I would hear that one of them was doing a poetry reading or something, and then go to it. And
Jonathan Rosenbaum loved that movie. He's a great critic. He sung the praises of Pump Up the Volume too.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he worked for the Chicago Reader at the time. It's funny. I don't remember what Ebert thought of Pump Up the Volume. Now that I think about it,
probably never saw it. There's a great food critic here in L.A. called Jonathan Gold, Next time you're in LA and looking for a restaurant, he looks for the independent places and finds them and writes about them. So,
yeah, that's also something to consider in the very near future. I've yet to come to LA, and I probably should, since I'm the biggest movie fan in the Midwest. I should probably come out and just have an experience, like even if it's just for a few days or whatever.
How old are you?
I am 38.
So, Jim?
Yes.
If you're serious about coming out here and you have your dates, let me know, because I rent out cottages on my little compound on Airbnb.
Right. Okay.
And you could stay free if it's not rented at that time. You follow me?
Oh, sure. That'd be wonderful. Thank you,
for 3 days or so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look me up under Airbnb Cozy Cottages on Venice compound.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, and see photographs. And anytime that it's not rented, you could stay there and have a taste of not L.A., but the West Side anyway, or Venice. Sure. I don't consider Venice L.A. necessarily. You know, it's all.
Yeah, I don't have to see the touristy stuff. You know, I should probably head out to the West Coast at some point in my life. I've been to the East Coast a few times, but haven't been out west, and I should. I really should.
As Dorothy Parker said about L.A., there's no there. It's all these communities, right?
Yeah.
And so you'd need a car.
Okay.
Although, I have extra cars. You could borrow one of mine, and you could, then you could say to yourself, well, you could, knowing you could go to places where movies were shot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That might be fun.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of online tours that you can drive by. You're just driving by Paramount Studios is fun. You don't have to go in,
That's a good call.
Maybe I could find a way. Oh, yeah, Paramount has a tour.
Okay.
Warner Bros. Has the best tour of all, the VIP tour. I could get you on it. And it's not like the Universal tour where you sit in it. It's like for real film people.
Nice.
Right? Where Hitchcock shot this and that. It's like a museum tour, not a kids' entertainment tour.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, there's lots for a film nut to see.
I'm going to get goosebumps on a regular basis out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I, right now where I live within a stone's throw, literally, maybe a block, not a stone's throw, of the old Roger Corman studio.
Ah!
And it was a vacant lot, basically, with all the sets out in the rain. There's no rain here, but, a lot of the valuable material just sitting there in the sun. And especially as he got older, as Corman's studio was less active, it was just like a dump, and of course now they've built condos there, super expensive condos, and it's right across the street from Gold's Gym, which is another interesting landmark.
Oh, I bet.
And literally 2 blocks from the beach.
Which I enjoy swimming, and I probably should swim in the ocean at least once. So, there's a lot on my bucket list, and I think it would be in my best interest to do that in the near future, because... Well,
when you're ready, let me know, and I'll look at the schedule of my cottages. I'm lucky enough to live on a little compound, which is my house, and then another small duplex, and then 4 cottages. So I rent out 6 units, and mostly friends.
Nice.
And so we've taken down the fence between the 2 cottages. Chioko! Do you need me? Do you need me?
Puppy.
So I saw my wife looking in my window here, and I thought she needed me for something.
Oh, that's
and
okay.
Then one of the dogs barked, and that's the extent of it.
We all have little stories each and every day.
Yes, yeah. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
The great thing about The great thing about your tour of L.A. is, as you say, your bucket list, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been thinking about all this stuff deeply, you know?
Of course.
You could even drive up. I could show you where the kids' studio, and pump up the volume, where we built the basement. You know, it was a set, right?
Sure.
And I could show you exactly where it was. You know?
Boy.
Now it's a park. They tore down that building and turned it into a park, but we could walk onto the grass and you could stand exactly where he spoke, right? If you cared to. But I would rather go to places like, right near me in Venice is the opening shot of that famous Hitchcock movie that takes place on the Mexican border.
Oh. Man, my cinephile.
No, it's not Hitchcock.
Oh, okay.
It's the other fat director who did Rosebud. What's his name?
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles did.
Oh, Touch of Evil?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Okay, remember that long opening shot?
Uh-huh.
Well, that is, again, a stone's throw from where I live.
Oh, my goodness.
And you could stand on the street and track with the camera. Yeah, fun,
okay.
For movie nuts.
Yeah,
speaking
no
of
kidding.
Squeeze, my favorite Squeeze song is Black Coffee in Bed.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great
one.
And
isn't it good? And the other day I looked up the lyrics. And the lyrics don't make sense to me. Like, now that you're gone and I'm out with your friends, that doesn't make any sense, really, does it?
No,
you ever thought about that?
No, I haven't. That's funny because, like, sometimes I don't look up lyrics because of that reason. I'm worried that it's going to, like, take the, the magic out of it. Because sometimes there are songs where I'm like, oh, really, that's what they're saying? Ugh, okay. But at the same time, you do want to sing along and, not mess it up. What is it? There's this. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. The Up the Junction is probably my favorite song because that tells a really long story.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Songs that tell stories. Like finally, that Queen song that's so famous.
Oh yeah.
What's the name of it?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. It's like, what, is it 7 or 15 minutes long?
I think it's like 6 or 7 minutes long, yeah.
Anyway, what a story, what an artist, right?
Uh-huh.
It's really an opera. And I had never taken time to digest it until the other day. Right? I'm 69 years old. I'm finally sat down and tracked the whole song. Because you hear bits and pieces, Mm-hmm. And, boy, was I disappointed when I saw Wayne's World and saw how good it was, because it was offered to me. But I hadn't seen the skit. I hadn't seen the skit I hadn't seen Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Saturday Night, the TV show. Right?
Right.
So the script didn't make any sense to me. I couldn't picture it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then some other director did it.
Penelope Spheris,
yeah. So she's good, but the thing is, just one of my many, many regrets.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that happens to all artists at some point in their lives.
Yeah. Well, it's because I didn't watch TV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good in some cases for sure, because you can read more, you can watch more movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I find myself nowadays, because TV is such high quality, I get sucked in. I like watch a pilot, and then automatically I'm like, well, now I got to watch however many seasons of this show it's going to be.
Yeah.
And to some degree that does take away from other things that I could be doing. But stuff like Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, high quality television that has storytelling of the highest caliber.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of why I like
What's
it.
the latest one I watched? There was 6 of them. What was it? God. It's about a lawyer and a young Muslim tenant. It's called The Night of.
Yeah.
Did you catch that one?
I sure did. It was amazing.
Just better than a movie, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It is like a 6-hour-long movie, but it doesn't feel like. I mean, it's because they're split up into hour-long. I mean, you can always binge it, but
I watched it as it went along, but of course, taped, so I didn't watch commercial. Oh, it was on HBO. There was no commercials, were there?
No. That's John Turturro, man. He's great.
Yeah, and Richard Price, the writer, equally important.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was, I think the actor from Sopranos developed it from the book and helped write it with Price. And then, of course, he died. And so he's listed as an exec producer.
That's right. Yeah.
Even though he's passed.
Yeah, I saw
eh?
James Gandolfini in the credits.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, he was going to play that part.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, good for him, right? Good for him, good choice, good thinking.
Very much so. I mean, that's something to consider, too, and, I don't know if you're officially retired from directing, that's totally understandable given your age and you need to enjoy your golden years. But that's also like an option that a lot of major filmmakers are going for now, just because they can tell longer stories and piece it out over time.
And less fear in the executive suite, and a lot of reasons. I'm thinking of it. I'm waiting for the universe to give me my next move. And I'm talking with you, and I'm thinking something's going to come out of these conversations, because you're a fan. You're starting a new business. I'm about to start a new business, whatever it'll be, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I certainly have visions of, Pump Up the Volume Part 2 in my head. But yet, I can't imagine all the pieces coming together for that happening. I don't know what studio.
Well, Christian has said he'd be interested.
Oh my gosh!
And a lot of people have asked me to do Pump 2, but I haven't figured out how. Of course, the original premise has now been taken over by the internet.
That's true.
Basically, it's pre-internet. It's a guy on a shortwave, on a radio. If you think about it, right?
Yeah.
It couldn't be done now. I mean, every teenager in America has a blog, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I was at a baseball game the other day by accident because I had an out-of-town guest, right?
Right.
And every single person there had his iPhone open, and we're doing selfies, and just a different world completely.
Yeah,
so I'd have to come up with an idea.
I think it would be interesting for Harry to comment on that. And to some degree, maybe start his own podcast, because really that's the story of comedian Marc Maron. Like
Tell me more.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because he was in a place where he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. He wasn't making a whole lot of money as a comedian, just struggling and unsure of the next move for him. So he just started almost like what Hard Harry did, started talking in front of a microphone, turned it into a podcast, and now he's got millions and millions of listeners and makes a very steady income off the podcast and interviews all these incredible guests like Robin Williams. And I mean, people you associate as like goofy, over the top comedians too. They tell very personal stories and they come across as very sincere.
Would you send me the link to that?
I sure will. It's definitely addictive. Like you listen to a couple of interviews and you're like, wow. And you see some of the names he's done. It's pretty phenomenal. And I always thought, Well, his story is very interesting to adapt at some point into either a fictional movie or, a documentary. But it's not unlike what I picture the, 50-something Hard Harry to be. Just somebody who is at a point in his life, like he's married with kids, unsure of his direction, doesn't really have a fulfilling job. Maybe he even goes to open mics to try and connect with an audience that way. But then he starts a podcast, gets it out into the world, and then once everybody starts hearing it, it becomes a sensation, and he becomes the person that he was in high school again. Like, that's kind of the vision I always had for part 2.
There's an interesting true story about the Bishop of Paris. Years ago, the Bishop of Paris, or might even been the Archbishop, I'm not sure, but up there in the Catholic hierarchy, started letting homeless people into Notre Dame, the signature Catholic church on the island in the middle of Paris. And, of course, the Vatican and the city and, the people that matter were very much against this because where's it going to end? First you let them in the church, then, it was just like, it was Trump, right? And the Christian church is not known for, first of all the Christians support Trump. Can you believe that? Anyway, that's an aside. There was a pushback against that, and the Vatican said, kick him out, and he said no. And he resisted. So the Vatican cannot defrock a person of his status. I guess after you're a bishop or an archbishop, you can't be defrocked, but they could punish him. Guess how? They could reassign him to the shittiest diocese in the world, right?
Oh, God.
And they found one. In the Negev desert, there's one godforsaken church in the middle of the Negev, and it's the head church of a diocese back from from 2,000 years ago. And so they assigned him that diocese. Basically, it's a giant punishment, right?
Right.
So he's sitting in Paris. Of course, he has an apartment. Doesn't have to actually live there, and he becomes the Archbishop of the Negev, and he's heard about this new thing called the Internet. And so so operating theoretically from his home church in the desert, he starts a blog and preaches on the internet, and basically does more harm does more help to the homeless and more harm to the Vatican than he could ever have done in Paris if they hadn't punished him, if they hadn't pushed him out there. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And that's a true story. And I'm thinking that maybe Happy Harry could be pushed somewhere. And his life, everyone thinks his life is over, and he's made mistakes. He's fought with everybody. He's had 40 years of struggle.
Yeah.
And then finally ends up in a place where he refines his voice, and then becomes helpful again to somebody. Anyway, so it's a bit like what you're thinking. Your story is a bit like my story.
I like both stories. I just like the idea of, somebody, a little bit older and, like in their late 40s or whatever.
Well, Christian, how old is he?
I don't know, honestly. He's one of those actors that, to me, doesn't really age a whole lot.
If the script was good enough, he'd do it. He's told me that.
That's pretty incredible. I mean, again, like I mentioned last time we talked, his character on Mr. Robot has these really intense speeches at times that I was just like,
oh, really, eh?
Yeah. That's that.
And is Mr. Robot written by a team of people, or is it what is it?
I think so, but
Would you send me a link to it again,
sure,
Jim, please?
Yeah, I sure will. I know the creator is a guy by the name of Sam Esmail, and he's done a couple of independent features, but he really broke through with this show. Like the lead actor just won an Emmy. I don't know. I don't think Christian was nominated, but he should have been, because he plays a significant part in the show. But he's also a character I can't reveal too much about because it's total spoiler territory. There's secrets behind his character.
Okay.
But it's a fascinating show about computers and hacking, and just like trying to overthrow the government. So it has a twinge of Pump Up the Volume's philosophy into it to some degree. Like just trying to take down the man.
Where would I find it? Netflix?
Yeah, I think the first season actually you can watch on Amazon if you have Amazon Prime, or I'll send you the link. I don't think it's on Netflix.
I do have Amazon Prime.
Oh, good.
And I was trying to watch. I read Emily Nussbaum in the New Yorker, who was raving about a British show called written and acted by a British female comedian, and it's called. Anyway, it's in its second year, and of course, Emily Nussbaum is the new Pauline Kael, and she was saying catch it. And then I tried to find it on Amazon Prime, but I couldn't work it. Is it easy to work? I said, what do I do? I'm already a member of Amazon Prime. How do I stream videos?
Are you able to connect it to your TV in any way?
I have Apple TV.
Okay.
I should be able to, right?
Oh, yeah, but you know what? Apple TV is one of the few devices that doesn't have Amazon Prime on there, because they're all about iTunes, because there's like a competition between Amazon and iTunes.
So that explains why I couldn't do it. Okay, good.
Right.
Thank you. That's good.
There are ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know they have these, like the Roku streaming app, or not app, but streaming device that you can pick up for pretty cheap, for like $30. And that has everything on it. Amazon, Netflix, YouTube, everything.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, I'll send you some information via email, because it would be very interesting for you to see what Christian's up to on this show.
And the show's called Robot?
Mr. Robot. Yeah.
Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
Okay, dying to see that. I'm dying to see that. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Yes, my love.
Oh,
I have to go somewhere and do something. Can we talk another day?
Absolutely, Allan. You know I'm always here, and I'm always excited to talk.
Okay, so I'm going to serve my wife, which is, though,
please do.
You know, it's insanity sometimes.
Oh, no,
but
I understand. I was in a relationship for 3.5 years once, almost got married. Didn't work out, but hey, I know what it's like.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. And, we'll be in touch via email, and maybe later this week.
Let's talk in a couple of days.
Okay.
And because I didn't get around to my topics, I wanted to ask you what you would do if you remade Pump, and in what format? Obviously TV, right?
Sure.
And
yes.
I wanted to ask you something else, but it might come to mind during conversation. Okay, so let me run now, Jim.
Sounds good, Allan. Have a great day.
Okay.
We'll talk soon. Okay.
You too. Bye-bye.